The New World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Files News Report. So for the third time in U.S. history, a Senate impeachment trial is officially underway. And this all stems from President Trump's July 25th phone call where he pressured Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, to actually announce an investigation into Hunter Biden and his father Joe Biden, former U.S. vice president and current Democratic presidential candidate. So, and then withholding almost $400 million in military aid in order to apply that pressure. Now, Democrats are already slamming Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell for basically trying to rush the trial, and even for Chuck Schumer said he's trying to cover up for the White House due to the fact that he's only allowing for two 12-hour days of presentation by the prosecutor and defense, and then 16 hours of debate amongst the legislators, and then 4 hours for answering questions. There's no guarantee that they'll be able to call witnesses. They'll need 4 Republicans to side with the Democrats in order to force them to be able to hear witnesses. But keep in mind that just for Bill Clinton trying to get scarred from Lewinsky back in the day, he had an impeachment trial in the Senate that lasted a month. Greenwald and the World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Files News Report. So the Senate impeachment trial is officially underway, but ahead of today's proceedings, yesterday on Monday, Trump's defense team actually called on senators to swiftly reject the charges, those charges being abuse of power and obstruction of Congress, and basically to acquit Trump, saying that these charges do not remotely approach the constitutional threshold for the removal of the president from office, and that it would permanently weaken the position. Keep in mind, his lawyers are Alan Dershowitz and Kenneth Starr. Kenneth Starr being the person that actually opened the probe, led the probe that led to Bill Clinton's impeachment trial, and then Dershowitz being a Harvard University law professor who represented Jeffrey Epstein back in 2008 and got him a 1-year deal for basically being a serial sex abuser and trafficker, and actually out of the underage girls that they were trafficking, one of them accused Alan Dershowitz of having slept with her. Something he's long denied, but hey, so did Prince Andrew, right? Greenwald and Graduation. The New World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Files News Report. So, congressional impeachment managers, picked out or pulled out by Nancy Pelosi last week. These are basically prosecutors or whatever. Lead prosecutor Adam Schiff is actually accused the NSA and the CIA of withholding documents about Ukraine that would be relevant to this trial, essentially. But the impeachment managers basically, stated their case, basically saying that Trump basically tried to get a foreign government to interfere in the 2020 elections by, withholding already allocated military aid, almost $400 million, to basically pressure them to open up this investigation against political rival Joe Biden, who's currently running for president, and former vice president under Obama, right? And also they have been called by news outlets, including like C-SPAN, basically criticizing the Senate for restricting access by the media. Greenwald and the New World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Files News Report. So while the impeachment trial is going over here against Donald Trump in the U.S., Trump is actually in Davos, Switzerland for the World Economic Forum. A trip that Quartz is actually saying, magazine is actually saying that is a cost like $5.6 million in taxpayer money. Nevertheless, the U.S. president should be out there, right? But the topic, the main issue of the economic forum was supposed to be the climate crisis. But he's talking about and touting his, it said that he was touting his tax cuts and immigration policies and his trade deals with China, Canada, Mexico. I guess they're relevant. But he also said that the U.S. air and water is cleaner than it's ever been. Dude has been rolling back environmental policies since he's been in office. Like, they can't be that's could be further from the truth. But keep in mind that Oxfam actually released a report ahead of the forum that basically says economic inequality is out of fucking control, and that the world's richest 1% actually make more than almost 7 billion people. The global population is only about 7.5 billion. And that over 2,000 billionaires are making more than 4.6 billion people. So it's crazy. Greenwald graduate. The New World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Files News Report. So 8 Democratic presidential candidates actually took part in the Brown and Black Presidential Forum in Iowa on Monday. Now this actually was meant to honor Dr. King. They also went and some Democratic presidential candidates had actually marched arm in arm in the streets of Columbia, South Carolina, to actually honor Dr. King. Now, this comes as the New York Times actually, in an highly unusual move, they publicly endorsed via an editorial in their own paper presidential candidates Elizabeth Warren and Amy Klobuchar. These are senators who are actually the last two women senators remaining. The paper is doing it. The only time that I've known them do it is last time they actually publicly endorsed Hillary Clinton. But these are the last two women senators that are still in the race. But Tulsi Gabbard, Hawaiian Congresswoman, she's actually still in the race as well. Greenwald graduate. For the New World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Fox News report. So over in Puerto Rico, protesters hit the street calling for the resignation of the current governor, Wanda Vasquez. This is the lady who actually took over the governorship from Ricardo Rosselló last year, who was forced to resign after leaked text messages showed him making fun of and mocking Hurricane Maria victims and making other offensive remarks. So, here comes Wanda Vasquez, but they're calling for her to resign because there was a video posted on Saturday that went viral showing undistributed emergency supplies sitting in a warehouse in the city of Palm. Now keep in mind that not too long after New Year's, Puerto Rico was actually rocked with a 6.4 magnitude earthquake. But these supplies containing like baby diapers, propane gas, bottled water. Some of these supplies date back to 2017, showing that they were also emergency supplies for Hurricane Maria victims. So Wanda Vasquez actually announced for a call for an investigation into the matter, and she fired 3 members of her cabinet. We'll see how this turns out. Greenwald graduate. For the New World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Fox News report. Make sure you sign that petition, y'all. Get Donald Trump off Twitter. OnTheTape.org. Look at the video description if you're watching this on YouTube or in my Instagram bio, GradyGrant716. Lays out exactly why you should be removed from the platform. Now, this past Saturday, there was actually one of the most bloodiest days in the ongoing conflict that's been going on in Yemen, taking thousands of lives. You know what I'm saying? And about like over a million people dying from cholera and being left to pushed to the brink of starvation. So all of that's been going on, right? But still, even this past Saturday, in the single most bloodiest moments where there was a drone and missile strike on a government military base that actually killed over 100 soldiers. So people are investigating it. They don't know. No one claimed the attack, but people are blaming Houthi rebels, which is surprising because they're most known for, fighting off forces from Saudi Arabia. But, this time, government military base trying to win war and graduate. The New World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Fox News report. So, over this past weekend, there were actually protests over in Lebanon, anti-government protests that continue to rock the country. I mean, these protests have been rocking due to people's frustrations with the deepening financial and political crises that are going on over there. Now, this past weekend, though, it got real violent between the protesters and the police out in the capital city of Beirut, where police were coming at the protesters with water cannons, tear gas, and rubber bullets. So human rights groups are saying that these forces are actually using excessive force, the violence is unnecessary. The Committee to Protect Journalists wants an investigation into the attacks and the detaining of journalists that have actually been covering the protest. These protests have been going on for months. They actually even forced Prime Minister Saad Hariri out of office back in October or whatever. But they continue to go on. We'll see how this turns out. Greenwald graduate. The New World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Fox News report. So on Tuesday in Baghdad, Iraq, there were actually 2 bombs that actually fell in the green zone, but there were no casualties reported. Baghdad being the center of a lot of controversy ever since going before the assassination of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani, which happened at the beginning of this year. But last year, ever since October, there have actually been protests erupting, going against where protesters and citizens have been demanding some democratic reforms and the appointment of an independent prime minister due to like the corruption that they're seeing and protesting against Iranian influence there, whatever. hundreds of people have actually been killed from these government crackdowns on these protests. Well, on Monday, yesterday, in Baghdad, there was actually a crackdown on the protesters that from like by use of tear gas and live ammunition that saw the death of 4 of the protesters. Green Wall and Graduation. The New World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Files News Report. So over in Virginia, actually in Richmond, the capital, there were tens of thousands of people that came out for a pro-gun rally that was actually anticipated. Governor Ralph Northam had actually declared a state of emergency ahead of the pro-gun rally that was supposed to take place on Martin Luther King Day. You had people there with guns. They were protesting the new gun legislature that was actually put forth by Virginia's freshly elected Democratic government, and they actually had they were openly carrying weapons and guns, including assault rifles. Going against the protesting against the change, even though guns weren't even supposed to be allowed on the state capitol. They were all around the state capitol. So, but there were no major incidents reported. So, white people behaved. These right-wing nationalists and all of that would have actually didn't do anything radical and behaved. Green Wall and Graduation. The New World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Files News Report. So the 3-judge panel for the 9th Circuit Court of Appeals actually rejected a landmark lawsuit put together by youth climate activists against the U.S. government. The Juliana versus the United States was actually set to accuse the United States of perpetuating the climate crisis and endangering its citizens, including especially the youth who have to live in this place in the future when the rest of us grown folks are all dead and gone. So it was rejected on the grounds that it doesn't belong in court, essentially. And there was one dissenting vote, but nevertheless, it's been rejected. The lawyers for the plaintiffs actually vowed to appeal. Keep in mind, though, the United Nations actually had a historic ruling that says that climate refugees cannot be forced to return to their home. These are people who are evacuating their state in order to escape a natural disaster. So they cannot be forced to go back to their home. So this could have a wide range of implications for millions of people all across the world, and it's suspected that there will be tens of millions of climate refugees over the next decade. Green Wall and Graduation. The New World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Files News Report. Still I Grind, that's the name of my Instagram mixtape. That's actually the prelude to the Still I Grind album that's on the way. But only Instagram mixtape ever done, man. And the shit is flame. Creativity on a zillion, man. Go ahead, check it out at Still_I Grind. Please watch my mixtape. But it even got the link that'll take you to the YouTube view where you can actually watch it all the way through. 24-minute runtime, straight heat, man. Now check this out though. On this past Saturday, a bunch of women across the country actually took to the streets for the 4th annual Women's March. Now, there were a bunch of people that were actually speaking out, sharing their stories of women's suffrage and continuation of the Me Too movement. Over in New York, you had Evelyn Yang, the wife of Andrew Yang, that actually spoke about her recent revelation that she was sexually assaulted by her obstetrician, Dr. Robert Haddon. Now, this comes all as the National Archives actually had to apologize for a photo that they had from the 2017 Women's March put in their exhibit for the centennial on women's suffrage that actually blurred out protest signs that were critical of Donald Trump, towards Donald Trump, as well as blocking out like reproductive, references and all of that. So, it's looked at as, but people are trying to get to the bottom, like, who the fuck told you to blur that out and why? So we'll see what happens. Green Wall and Graduation. The New World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Files News Report. So one of the last remaining MOVE members that is still behind bars, Delbert or Africa, was actually released. This guy is also known as Del Africa. He was finally released from prison after 42 years behind bars. His arrest came from 1978 after the police actually bombed the compound of the MOVE organization, which is like a radical anti-police brutality, mostly African-American organization that was actually accused of the murder of Philly police officer James Grant. And they bombed the fuck out of their compound and then actually arrested 9 of the members of the MOVE organization. So far, 6 have been released. 1 died behind jail. And then Del Africa being released. Then there's that makes 8, and then there's one more that was actually that still remains behind bars. Chuck African. We'll see what happens. Greenville and Reggie. We'll go to Bishop Grady, man. Y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Files News Report. Make sure y'all check out my mixtape, Still I Grind. It's not on that pit. It's not on my mixtapes. It's on @ still_I Grind on Instagram. The only Instagram mixtape ever. But the shit is flame. And you go watch it on YouTube too. There's a YouTube link that allows you to watch the whole video straight through. 24-minute runtime. Heat, political commentary, all of that shit, man. Please watch my mixtape. Now check this out. Chris Collins, former New York Republican congressman, was actually sentenced to 26 months in prison, along with a fine of $200K for insider trading. Basically knowing what stocks and shit like that is about to go down, and then buying and altering your stock portfolio, your financial portfolio, to actually capitalize off your moves that technically you're not really supposed to know about. And now he's gonna serve prison sentence for it. This is the first congressperson to actually endorse or support Donald Trump. So go figure. What a surprise. Greenville and Graduation. Let's start that about. To the world, though, the Bishop Grady Lane. Y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Files News Report. So over in Oakland, California, it seems like Moms for Housing, that organization that was actually sitting in houses that were being basically that were vacant but unaffordable to the community, and they were sitting in these houses for the purpose of protest against homelessness and real estate speculation, which is nationwide, making housing unaffordable or whatever. Well, they actually reached an agreement to actually purchase the house that they had been sitting in and evicted for. And there was a raid last week about removing these women from this property that's owned by Wedgwood Properties, which now says they will sell the house at a fair price through the Oakland Community Land Trust. So shout out to the women over there, Greenville and Red.